Okay, I'm very excited to be here and talk about my experience with ISI. As you probably have already heard, ISI is a study abroad program for international students, mainly American students, who come here as undergraduate and they study with us for a semester. So we are talking about students who are between 19 and 21 years old. So my name is Serena Giorgi, and I'm the coordinator of community engagement at ISI Florence. I work with students to organize volunteer activities and field experiences connected to practicum courses. ISI offers many opportunities for experiential learning, including a practicum in disability studies that connects students directly with the community because it's a hands-on experience. Over the years, I've had the privilege of building strong relationship with associations that employ adults and young adults with cognitive intellectual disabilities, as well as with centers where participants engage in many different kinds of tasks. These places are not just work or activity centers. They are environments designed to enhance individual abilities, to encourage socialization, and support personal growth. What I deeply value about these organizations is their focus on education through interaction, how to relate to others, how to collaborate, how to be present in a community, because ability is not treated as something fixed, but something that can grow when the environment allows it to. The students, our students, ISS students, complete the required number of field experience connected to the classes in these associations that are selected. One important aspect of this experience is minimal supervision by me. I try to give them as minimum supervision as possible. This might sound risky first, but in reality, it's a great strength because when supervision is limited, students learn to teach themselves through practice. They learn how to transfer skills from one environment to another, even very small skills, which often turn out to be the most meaningful. And I always say that a student truly succeeds when without strong expectations, and that's the key because sometimes they think that they are going to change the world, but anyways. So when a student truly succeeds when they move into a position of humility, when they shift from I'm here to help you to I need you more than you need me. Let me give you an example from a student who told me that her experience changed when she reversed the relationship within the association. In fact, one of the members was deaf and communicated using sign language. The student did not know sign language. So she said, "You speak sign language. I don't. Please teach me." When we reverse the relationship in this way, something powerful happens because I'm no longer imposing my vision or my methods or my solutions. Instead, I ask, I observe, and I learn. And from there, I can support and enhance skills rather than trying to fix a gap that I think I see. This is what empowerment looks like. And as educators, our role is not to dominate the process, but to create the conditions for growth for both our students and the people they meet. When everyone involved is learning, that is where real success begins. I usually use the word reciprocity. I like that the students believe in reciprocity. They get as much as they give and they learn if the people they interact with learn as well. I would like now to share a reflection from a lady called Lucia. And Lucia is a member at Lina. And Lina is a daycare center where people with cognitive intellectual disabilities spend their day supported by dedicated professional staff that encourage learning, independence, and personal growth. This Linar Center is the center where our former students, Katie Chula, that we were mentioning before, and whose video I'm going to show you now shortly, she completed her field experience in this center. So this guest, this participant in the center said, first of all, it should be said that for several years now, Linar has been welcoming students from all over the world. And it's a wonderful thing because for us to meet new people is fabulous. It helps us and it's good for us. Plus, we hope we can give something in exchange too. It's a great thing to collaborate with them who come from the United States. For me, I may not understand them very well, but I want to learn English, their language, and I want to learn Spanish, German, and I want to learn Indian. So sometimes the students say, oh, there is a language barrier. Even when the verbal communication is not perfect, the desire to learn is still there. This lady, Lucia, wants to learn English, Spanish, German, and even Indian. The curiosity, this openness reminds us that inclusion is not charity, but it's exchange. Inclusion works when we encourage that everyone brings knowledge, culture, skills, and curiosity to the table. When we stop asking, how can I help you, and start asking, what can I learn from you? That to me is the heart of community engagement and the foundation of meaningful work in the field of disability. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Katie Chula, and in the fall of 2022, I had the incredible opportunity to study abroad in Florence, Italy, enrolled as a student at International Studies Institute, Florence. I spent the semester making new friends, exploring the beautiful city of Florence, and truly taking the time to find out more about myself, as people tend to do when traveling to a new country for any period of time. I look back at my time abroad, and although there are so many contributors to the wonderful experience that I had, there was one opportunity in particular that not only shaped my time in Italy, but truly made me a better human being. By some stroke of luck, I decided to sign up for a course a few months prior to my semester titled Discovering Abilities, Narratives, Disabilities, and Identities. Although the course already sounded extremely interesting to me, what really drew my inclination to sign up was the fact that it was a practicum course. A portion of the class would be taught as normal, in a classroom discussing greater ideas and topics, and the other portion would be going out into the city and engaging with individuals who were impacted by a disability in some way. A wonderful woman who is sitting amongst you in the crowd today, Dr. Serena Giorgi, was the Florence engagement coordinator at the time, and sent the incoming students a link to explore the various opportunities that we could choose from for our practicum. This is when I came across Linar, a center for adults with cognitive and physical disabilities. Linar is a place where adults of this nature can come daily to be a part of a community, having the opportunity to learn, engage in activities that they enjoy, and communicate with others, an aspect of life that is absolutely vital to one's well-being. It was decided that I would take the bus to Linar after my last class of the day on Mondays and Wednesdays, spending my time there engaging with the guests, helping staff, and leading activities such as various forms of arts and crafts. I remember my first day at the center vividly. I was anxious, excited, and everything in between. When I arrived, Marco, one of the lovely individuals whom I had the privilege of working with, introduced me to everyone who was at the center. I remember feeling a bit nervous that they would not be receptive to having someone new around, or would be apprehensive of an American student trying to engage with them. Fortunately, that couldn't have been further from the truth. They welcomed me with open arms and greeted me with curiosity, kindness, and enthusiasm. Every day that I spent time at Linar, my connection with each guest there was strengthened. I quickly learned each of their names, and they learned and remembered mine even quicker. As soon as I hopped off the bus after class, I was greeted with waving hands and wide smiles, feeling accepted and appreciated in this space. With each passing day, a new heartwarming gesture was shown to me. Hand-picked flowers, beautiful artwork, videos on YouTube that they wanted to show me. It was a special bond that I was so fortunate to create with so many of them, and it was not only a core experience of my time abroad, but such an impactful experience in the entirety of my life. It is important to mention that I was nowhere near fluent in Italian throughout my time at Linar. I was lucky enough to arrive to my semester abroad with 5 or 6 years of Italian classes under my belt, but I was not proficient in the slightest. Although I would have loved to have more complex conversations with the guests, I think that the language barrier truly demonstrates our abilities as human beings to connect with one another without any words at all. Some of the adults at Linar did not speak much. Some of them spoke in fluent Italian very quickly that I couldn't quite understand. But through quality time spent together and a tangible understanding and deep compassion for one another, words were truly not needed. There was a woman whose name will remain undisclosed who I absolutely adored throughout my time at Linar. We would spend time together in the back room that opened up to the outdoor space and sit side by side for hours, coloring, painting pumpkins, chatting. I will admit that over 50% of the time I did not quite understand what she was telling me, but I listened to her intently, carefully, without any distraction. I gave her a soft smile and an acknowledging gaze that let her know that I understood her. I was here with her, wanting to spend my time exactly in this way. She would help me practice my Italian, and I attribute my increasing confidence in the language to her. This is one of the hundreds of examples that I have of the connections I was so lucky to form with the guests of Linar. Despite language barriers, despite cultural differences, despite the abilities we all possessed. Additionally, I was fortunate enough to watch them share stories with one another, cook for each other, and enjoy each other's presence day by day. When I was asked to submit a video for today's conference, I looked into SCEP and everything that they stand for. One sentiment that stood out to me from the PowerPoint I received goes as follows, quote, "The World's Report on Disability states that the worst enemy for people with a disability is the negative attitude of society. In a world that is influenced and shaped by our attitudes, stereotypes, prejudices, and our bad practices, we must realize that what excludes disabled people from being part of our daily lives are the obstacles society places in front of them. It's not just the lack of accessibility of spaces, it's mainly our mindset," end quote. I could not agree with this more. It is so often that individuals with a disability are excluded from society, perceived as different, and looked down upon. It is absolutely crucial that we understand these barriers only exist when we give them life. When we focus on how we are different from one another, the challenges associated with the act of connecting with someone, the ways in which we cannot understand each other, this is when we build a wall between one another. In spending time at Linar, it taught me just how easy it is to break down these barriers. I focused on the ways in which we could connect. I bonded with the guests through activities and understanding and a strong desire to get to know them in any way that I could. I celebrated their wins and allowed them to teach me new things instead of only believing that I was there to help them. Truly, in hindsight, they were the ones who helped me. They showed me such a great degree of kindness that is truly rare in this world. They accepted me, they were curious about my background and who I was and about American culture. They looked forward to seeing me, allowed me to partake in their hobbies, and learn about their passions. It was at Linar that I learned that our differences are only as big as we allow them to be. There is always a way to touch someone's heart, to show them that you care, to form a bond that does not require words. Leaving my semester abroad was a true heartache. This life that I built in Florence was beautiful and pivotal to who I am today. As I got on the bus for the last time, all of the guests of Linar came outside to send me off with big hugs and waves goodbye, and I was right in knowing then that I would think of them fondly and often for the rest of my life. Every day since then, I challenged myself to meet others where they're at, to show compassion to any person that crosses my path, no matter who they are, where they come from, which challenges that they face. I challenged myself to be as inclusive, accepting, and open-minded as possible. At the end of the day, we are all cut from the same cloth, and life is all the sweeter and all the richer when we allow ourselves to meet others, regardless of who they are, with compassion, curiosity, and empathy. I challenge you all today to think about the ways that we can be more inclusive, more compassionate, more accepting in our everyday lives. Seek out experiences to get to know others who are different from yourself, to enter a new community for the first time. It is only then that we learn how incredibly similar we truly are, and that every individual deserves acceptance and inclusion. Thank you all for listening to me recount this incredible experience. I truly admire the work that you are doing, and I'm so fortunate to be able to share my personal insight.
I'd like to thank Serena Peci. Anyway, I think to all the Serenas and Stefanos and many people here. Isabella did such a great job with all the translations. I didn't even realize she was working so diligently behind the scenes. Really, thank you. Especially I'd like to thank Katie Chula for truly, of course, for her very thoughtful intervention and insight.
She reminds us of the recurring theme throughout today of connection and how that is the first step in overcoming differences and barriers. In my role as the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access Officer at ISI Florence, I work to ensure that all our study abroad students feel safe, supported, and included, regardless of their intersectional identities and abilities. However, Katie's observations about breaking down the barriers of communication bring me back to a past life, a past career that I had in design and communications, which is my specialty, when I used to teach a course in visual literacy at a higher education institute. To get students thinking about the various ways people process information, I had them describe their walk from their apartment to the school in 3 different ways, from point A to point B. The first and most obvious was the usual walk down such and such a street, turn left at Main Street. When you get to number 5, you've arrived. Basic verbal instructions, which are the standard for most communication. I then had them describe the walk using only visual tools, pictures, drawings, landmarks, shops, signs, etc. No verbal instruction or names of streets were allowed. The third description was to explain their walk without resorting to any verbal or visual tools, only smells, sounds, emotions, touch, etc. You couldn't say turn left at the McDonald's, but rather, when the air fills with the smell of French fries and it takes you back to your childhood when your mother didn't allow you any junk food, turn towards the sound of the ringing church bells. Or when the texture of the warm bricks turns to cold glass, you've arrived at the door. While this method was a bit more poetic, this is actually how many neurodivergent people might process their surroundings. This exercise was to get them to think about inclusive communication and be aware that not everyone processes information the same way. The disability practicum that my colleague Serena and Giorgi developed and illustrated previously also reminded me of some of the fundamental aspects of situation design. Usually when we think of situation design, we imagine scenarios like IKEA, with their purposely elaborate labyrinths that prey on human impulses in order to sell you more stuff. But in the practicum's case, the situation design of combining a young study abroad student completely out of her comfort zone and with limited local language skills with a group of others impacted by disabilities led to a deeper human connection that went beyond just words, basically designing for a more inclusive society. In conclusion, when I think of the education field as a designer, I'm always questioning how the act of teaching can be designed to be more inclusive and take into consideration how information is processed and how knowledge is assessed. The current trend of academic accommodations like extra time or isolated exam spaces brings to mind another aspect of my field, remedial design. Remedial design is when you have to invent an add-on or a completely new object just to make up for a design failure or shortcoming of the original project. For example, not to pick on IKEA again, but IKEA sells a vast range of plastic storage boxes with lids. Next to these boxes is a bin full of little plastic clips for another €2 that serve to keep the lids in place. Great, problem solved. But why couldn't they have just designed a better lid in the first place, or even a better box? The same applies to education. Why give more time instead of just reinventing better exam methods that assess knowledge and understanding in a more inclusive way? Are time constraints or extensions inclusive and equitable, or just another barrier? I believe the answers to the many experts here today. I only hope the lens of design can be another tool in the room as you shape what comes next. Because when design and pedagogy start asking questions together, that's when real inclusion becomes possible. Thank you.
I would like to take advantage of your presence here because I hardly ever see you. Right? So like not long time no see. And especially to see if there are any questions. And Kate is